everyone. This is Maryam Henein, investigative journalist, functional medicine consultant, best known for directing the award-winning film Vanishing of the Bees. I'm also founder of Honey Colony, an online magazine and marketplace aimed at empowering you to be your own best health advocate. I have been speaking about freedom of speech and techno-fascism. Today I'm going to be speaking about the R word and blackface. So maybe this will be taken down. Who knows? I'm referencing Tropic Thunder. So Tropic Thunder stars Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Robert Downey Jr. It came out in 2008. So in this movie, there is a scene where Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Kirk Lazarus, Hot LZ, is in blackface. He's portraying an African American, and he's speaking to Ben Stiller's character, and they're acting, right? So it's a movie that's taking place on a set while they're filming. So the characters are actors. And Ben Stiller's character had recently appeared in a film where he is retarded.
Everybody knows you never go full retard. What do you mean?
So I reference this because here we are, a decade later, and now retarded has become the R word and has become totally offensive, and we cannot do blackface. And this film has both happening at the same time. No longer allowed. So when I grew up in the 70s in Montreal, Canada, we used to word the word, "That's so retarded." And it means backwards. It means slow. I agree, personally, you do not want to call someone mentally retarded. Recently, I was actually meditating on that word and the fact that it's become the R word. Someone had told me in conversation, "That's retarded," and then caught themselves and apologized. And I'm like, "You're safe with me." And during this meditation process, a couple of days, I was parked on the side of a street, and I was looking at directions in the Studio City Hills a couple months ago. And I had someone drive by me and say, "Retard." And it was good medicine because it was like, oh, great, this just happened. I'm meditating about it, and now I could see how it feels to be called a retard. It didn't feel very good. So I'm all for not calling someone a retard, but if you're speaking about something being retarded, that is a different context. So if we look at the history, you can actually find a wikihow online on how to keep yourself in check. Recognize, this is from using alternatives, it's encouraging you to use alternative terms. Recognize that mentally retarded is no longer an accepted diagnostic term. You don't want to use it as a diagnostic term. Hopefully you're using it as an actual word that means backwards, slow. Do not call something you don't like retarded. Never attack someone you don't like by calling them retarded or a tard. Apologize, which is what my neighbor did when you use that word. Tell others you won't be using the R word anymore. And stop thinking of disabled people as lesser. Absolutely true. There's distinctions to be made. I find it quite interesting that wikihow has some guidelines, like telling others, I won't be using the R word anymore, which definitely I won't be doing. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in being kind. And I think it's remarkable that this film in 2008, it's called Comedy, is able to use both blackface and the R word together, and it was accepted. There is also the film, same year, Zach and Miri Make a Porno, and Seth Rogen. And they also make a reference like "That's so retarded." So people on Reddit are asking, I just don't understand why people are suddenly offended by a word that's been in existence forever. And in terms of fascism, techno-fascism, rewriting of history, deleting stuff online, on YouTube, just doing this whole cleansing, and this is very appropriate, meaning not surprising, that we have reached levels of political correctness that are bullshit. It's, someone says on Reddit, quote, "It's just a fucking word. There's no hate behind the word when it's not being used toward someone." Agreed. Using the word retarded is awful. Awful. Let's break that word down as someone who likes etymology. Aw-full, meaning marvelous, great, stunning, mind-boggling. If you want to be nice, original meaning, silly, foolish, ignorant. So we see how words change over time. Definitions of words can change. Just because it was used one way, clearly in the past, doesn't mean that we can use it the same way anymore. And also came across an article on Medium where someone takes a deep dive into looking at the history of the word. And I'm going to read a part. When a term becomes more known as an insult than by its proper use, as with idiot, imbecile, moron, and then mentally retarded, there's a choice to be made by the affected community. In this case, people with intellectual disabilities, their families and advocates, and the organizations serving them. There's an actual site that we'll also link where, in the spirit of inclusion, there is a movement to ban the R word. So we cannot, I probably, if I used it on Twitter, not that I get much reach because I am arguably shadow banned, or my reach has gone down, as I've talked about how my company's website, as many others in the health arena, have lost up to 90% of our traffic thanks to Google. So going back to what I was saying. So you have choices. The community, if you're offended, the community can A, capitulate and run away from the term that was stolen from them and find a new one. Or it can B, take back its term and defend the people it describes by insisting that everyone stop using it as an insult, but continue to use it properly. In the case of retarded, this would involve declaring that they are proud to be or love someone with mental retardation, and that there's nothing wrong with being mentally retarded. Now again, let's distinguish. We have to have more discernment. It's not kind. This is basic humanity 101, right? To call people names and be hateful, but to use a word and say that is retarded, that should be allowed. Why should I say that is R? That's so R. The problem with simply abandoning an official label, this is from the article in Medium, which I will link to the insulting masses, is that it requires finding a new label, and we know what will happen next. The school children will use the new one as an insult. It will slowly become common and acceptable. And as the children grow up, they will take their insult with them. Then yet another new term will be required. So Harvard linguist Steven Pinker, if you've heard of him, coined the term euphemism treadmill for this churning of terms. So this was just a short little bit. I encourage you to watch Tropic Thunder. Again, comedy. What has happened to comedy? Comics are censoring other comics. And that's why David Chappelle's latest Netflix, I think, special got so much interest. The critics gave it a very low listing on Rotten Tomatoes, but the people loved it. So there's a disparity going on. So I stand for freedom of speech if you value this information, and realize that many of us are getting shadow banned and deranked. Please subscribe right here, please. and follow me on Twitter. That would be very appreciated. I recently had a story go viral on the Epoch Times about Google being a pharmaceutical company. And I told the Epoch Times that they kind of give me CPR on Twitter. I had stopped using Twitter for a while because I just wasn't getting the reach, although I love Twitter as a writer and editor, to be encouraged to be succinct in X amount of characters. Again, today we were talking about the R word and blackface. I did not get into blackface, so I'll just talk about that for a moment. Obviously, you know about Trudeau being caught at a costume party. Now, I'm Canadian. I will say that I don't think Trudeau is living up to his father's name, does not hold a candle to his papa. And unfortunately, well, us Canadians, we say sorry a lot. Maybe you know that. It's a Canadian thing. At the same time, why did he apologize? Clearly, does anyone really think that Trudeau is a racist? Like, people have now apologized to Roseanne Barr, and if someone was putting things in context, would realize that she did not mean it as a racial slur. That if you zone in to Roseanne Barr and use discernment, intuition, look at body language, you tell me if she's any more racist than you. She's for the people, and there's a lot more to that story. But regardless, banning people and taking away our rights to freedom of speech. I stand for freedom of speech and expression, and at the same time I stand for kindness and self-awareness and accountability. And there's many people who have done blackface. Are we giving Robert Downey Jr. An issue for playing Kirk Lazarus just, in 2008? So let's remark how things have changed. And from 2016 to 2019, we're living in a whole different world. And fascism and censorship has reached new heights. Spread this information. Be a free thinker. Stand for the truth. Over and out.